What's good, Commanders fans, and happy hump day. Just wanted to talk about another Terry McLaurin update. This one is per Nikki Javala. She is with The Athletic now. Dianne Rossini came out with an update as well, and we've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of updates so far within the past couple of months. I do want to talk about a rumored trade proposal as well. I do want to talk about that towards the end of today's video, but I will talk about this. And also, they're about to have practice right now for training camp, and I think Dan Quinn said that Terry McLaurin, of course, will not be out there, but he'll just be ramping up and stuff like that. Where is the update at? Let me see if I can find it. Basically, Terry will not participate in today's Commanders practice per Dan Quinn. He's now in the conditioning phase, coming off the pup list. So that's stuff that we already knew. He's not gonna do 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s until he gets a deal done, or he is just gonna have to play. If it gets past the Ravens game and we get into the first game of the season, September 7th, and let's say it's September 1st. I think for his sake, he knows that he needs to get on the field, because you don't want to come in cold. Like, you don't want to do that. You saw how he's a slow starter anyway. Even every year he's had a slow start for the most part. Like, you don't want to come in cold like that, not played against any competition, not a joint practice, not a practice, not anything. Like, that's the last thing that I think is in the best of his interest, is to do that and come in week one against the Giants, who were a better team then. But if you come in sluggish or not ramped up and not playing against other corners like Trey Amos in practice, I think that would be good for Trey Amos, and that would be good. Terry's going against many corners, so it's not like it's going to make him better, but him going against Marshawn, Mikey, and other guys like that is better than just running routes in a bubble, for sure. And then, week one, you're going up against Deonte Banks. You don't want Deonte Banks to talk trash, because, Deonte Banks, Terry cooks him a lot, but you guys get the point there. That's just the last thing you want to do, is go into week one and start practicing like September 1st or something like that. That's like the worst case scenario. And all right, so let's just get to what Nikki Javala wrote in her article here per The Athletic. She's with The Athletic now. So she says, what is McLaurin asking for in a contract extension? So remember Ricky Scoops, the guy who has a dog profile picture, he said that a deal would be happening with $30 million per year. That still is possible. But after reading this article and looking at what Dianne Rossini said, it's kind of looking tough on that. It's not looking great. I'll just say that. But we don't know 100% what is true. But I do think there is some validity to what Nikki Javala has said here. She says, McLaurin believes he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's been the Commanders' leading receiver every season since he entered the league. And last year, he had the second most receiving touchdowns in the league behind Jamar Chase's 17. Let me just move on. So basically, she said, one person with knowledge of McLaurin's contract negotiations said the veteran receiver has asked for more than DK Metcalf, who signed a 4-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier this year. Now, Adam Schefter did say that he thinks that Terry is asking for DK Metcalf or considerably more. So she's like the second or third person to say that. So it kind of like when Adam Schefter says it, and now Nikki Javala is saying, it's like, okay, this is true. Where, Jeremy Fowler said that they had an offer at 24 million or something like that, and Terry is fine with 28 or something like that. They could possibly meet in the middle. John Keim said the Commanders could get to 28 mil. Now, Dianne Rossini said he's 27, 28. But if him and Buddy Baker are really bent on or standing on this DK Metcalf number, they just got to get off of it. And like I talk about this Yahoo Sports interview where the guy was like, Adam Peters, you don't want to negotiate with him at all. Adam Peters is standing on this $25 million, or hopefully he can get up to $28 million offer. So Terry, he's a great receiver, but DK Metcalf money, he's just not going to get it from Adam Peters. He's not going to get it from any other team. And Dianne Rossini also says it too. She says most decision makers in football fall between that $27 and $28 million. I have a hard time finding anyone who's given me the number that I think the McLaurin camp is asking for. So it's like Terry and Buddy. I'm not gonna put all of it on Buddy. Like, Terry is a part of it too. Like, of course, at the end of the day, he has to make his own decision. He can fire Buddy Baker if he wants. He can totally do that. Maybe he does believe that, he should earn that money. I mean, not maybe, he does. And his friend said it on Twitter too. His friend was like, Terry can think for himself. Terry's his own man. So I don't want to blame Buddy Baker all the time, but I do feel like, and Mike Jones said it, from Mike Jones NFL was like, a lot of people think he's just getting bad advice. And I think if him and Buddy brought it down to 30, I think that'd be reasonable. If they do 28, I think a deal gets done. I think 28 is reasonable on both sides. I think 30 is perfect. That's why when Ricky Scoop said 30, I think 30 is perfect. But I do want to talk more about it, but I do want to give you guys a good shout out to SeatGeek. Ooh, what's good, y'all? I just want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, SeatGeek. I'm super excited to see the Commanders this year, and I just went to the Commanders training camp practice. And the way that I got in was by using SeatGeek. I'm looking for good deals, and SeatGeek will give you the best deals on tickets. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. The NFL is around the corner, and MLB is in full swing. I love using SeatGeek. SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, and red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. I just used them to go to that training camp practice on July 29th, where I threw the ball right into the bucket, right into the 5, and I did this cool, smooth shoulder swing, waited for the traffic to go past, and threw the ball right into the bucket. You know how I got in? I used SeatGeek, which was super clutch and super easy to use. And you know I had to come through for you guys. You can use code EdOliver for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code EdOliver. Make sure you guys click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Let's get back to the video. But yeah, so I think 30 is perfect, but when you get to 33, 34, and this is also what Nicky Jhabvala had to say too about the team's percentage or something like that. He will take like 11.8% of Washington's cap and average annual value, which would be at least the 5th highest percentage among receivers. So that is a good amount. I know the salary cap is going up each year, but I do think 33. At first, when we were first talking about the negotiations and stuff like that, I was fine with 33. I was like 3 years, $99 million, something like that would be perfect. 3 years, $90 million is perfect to me. I just can't wait for this stuff to be over. But I think honestly, we're at the point where both sides are not budging. I did think that him coming off the PUP list was a sign of Buddy Baker and Terry waving the white flag because of what Cliff said the day before. Like, we just need guys to play in practice. And that Terry is starting to realize that he's just not going to win this battle. He's not going to get the 33, 34, $35 million that reportedly him and Buddy Baker are looking for. They're just not going to get it. You know, you turn 31 and when the contract starts. And I love Terry with a passion, but, you know, they're just not going to do that. I know the analytics do show for the most part that 31-year-old receivers tail off, but there's a good argument on both sides. Like, I feel like Terry is going to be fine at the age of 32, 33. Like, I don't think he's just going to taper off. Like, I just don't believe that, especially with Jaden Daniels as his quarterback. Like, I think Terry's actually getting better. Like, I think, you know, this past season was his best season as far as finishing plays in the end zone. I feel like it was one of his better yak seasons. Yes, he did get hauled down a couple times, but I thought, you know, the Lions playoff game, the Eagles playoff game, the Buccaneers playoff game, he really stepped up big time in the playoffs. And just the touchdowns too, 13 touchdowns is huge. And when you get a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, it's going to maximize you, make you better, and give you those contested catch opportunities. I think Jaden just had to get more comfortable with giving him those contested catch opportunities because that's just the receiver that Terry is. Terry's not going to just, you know, dance and cross you over and get open, super duper open. Like, that's just not the kind of receiver he is. He's more of a contested catch guy, a tough, over-the-middle kind of catch guy. And once Jaden really got comfortable in doing that in that Bengals game, that's when he maximized Terry's talents, and that's when Terry was able to maximize Jaden's talents when they got on that same page. So I say all this to say this. I see a lot of people on social media crashing out on Terry and being upset that him and Buddy Baker are reportedly looking for DK Metcalf, and that's confirmed again after Adam Schefter and now Nicky Jhabvala saying it. But, yeah, I think 30. 30 is perfect. If Terry and Buddy can come down to 30, I think that's perfect. If Adam can meet it at 30, but if not, then, you know, I think the 25 is disrespectful that he offered initially. A 24 that Adam offered is disrespectful. But I think 28 is very, very reasonable. 28, 29, 30 is very respectful and very reasonable for Terry being 31 and starting the contract at 31 years old. So those are my thoughts on it. I get both sides. We're all exhausted with this. And I get somebody's going to comment and be like, hey, is millionaires griping over $5 million when you're already rich and stuff like that. So I get the argument on everybody's side for sure. There's another note that I did want to point out too. But I think that the Cortland Sutton deal didn't help him at all. And then Nikki Javala writes about that too, saying that. But you got to think about the guarantees too. Like I think Cortland Sutton got $40 million guaranteed. So let's say Terry gets $28 million guaranteed, $28 million per year, but he gets like $55 million guaranteed. I think that's something that may help Terry and Buddy Baker come down from 34 or above DK Metcalf down to like 28, something like that. And John Keim said they could get to 28. All right, so let's transition here to the trade rumor. So this is from 93.7 The Fan with the Steelers. Of course, you got to take this with a grain of salt. I actually take this with more of a grain of salt than I do the Ricky Scoops, the dog profile picture on Twitter News. They said that Adam Peters offered Terry McLaurin to the Steelers for a second-round draft pick and Pat Freiermuth. Now, if we get Pat Freiermuth, you would have one of the best tight end rooms with Pat Freiermuth, Noyak Zach, John Bates. I don't know where Ben Sinnott would fall in. You probably keep 4 tight ends, and Colson Yankov would be released. That's probably what you would end up doing. But Pat Freiermuth is a darn good tight end. Let me see, what were Pat Freiermuth's stats last year before I look it up? But that, honestly, like, I'd rather keep Terry. The second-round pick is enticing. So Pat Freiermuth had 65 catches for 653 yards and 7 touchdowns. 2022, he had 63 catches and 732 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then you look at Noyak Zach. Zach had 66 catches for 654 yards and 7 touchdowns. So him and Pat Freiermuth were basically doppelgangers. Zach had 1 more catch than Pat Freiermuth. Zach had 1 more yard with 654 yards compared to Pat Freiermuth 653. And then Pat and Zach both had 7 touchdowns. So they both basically had similar numbers. So like this would be like similar to the Ravens with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Now, Isaiah Likely is better than Zach at this point, I think, and Mark Andrews, you could argue. Zach probably had just as good a season as Mark Andrews last year. But but you would give Jaden 2 really, really good tight ends, and this would be similar to the Ravens offense, in my opinion, because you would just be attacking the middle of the field. Jalen Lane would be your Zay Flowers. Debo Samuel would be... He's not really comparable to Rashad Bateman, but you guys get the point. It would be like similar to the Ravens. You don't have Derrick Henry, but you have a committee with C-Rod, JCM. JCM would kind of be like your J.K. Dobbins from a couple years ago when J.K. Dobbins was healthy with the Ravens, and Gus Edwards. So you kind of compare it to that, and then you just have your top 5 quarterback in Jaden Daniels, top 5 quarterback in Lamar Jackson. That's kind of like the offense that you would have if you just give away your number 1 receiver, second team All-Pro wide receiver, to the Steelers for Pat Freiermuth and a second-round pick. So, like, I would love to have Pat Freiermuth on the team, but of course I'd rather have Terry rather than getting a tight end and a second-round pick. Like, I just feel like it's redundant. Like, you already have a dominant tight end in Zach. You need an outside guy in Terry McLaurin. You just need an outside guy in Terry McLaurin. You just have to. Now, if you would have traded Terry, you would have to Zach Ertz had more. Zach Ertz, Mark Andrews had 673 receiving yards last year, and Zach Ertz had like 654. So like I said, they're very, very similar in stats right now. But I wouldn't do the trade. And then the reporter said that the Steelers rejected the offer. They rejected it. The Steelers are desperate for another receiver. They want another receiver really, really badly next to DK Metcalf. And they just paid DK Metcalf. So they would have to give us the second-round pick and Pat Freiermuth and then pay Terry McLaurin as well. So it's just a lot of moving parts there. Our team's willing to do that. The Patriots did say that they're willing to give up a first or a second. And once again, Adam Peters is not trading Terry because he knows how important to the team that Terry McLaurin is for our Super Bowl aspirations. So I wouldn't do the trade. But like I said, I mean, Pat Freiermuth is a dog. Zach is a dog. So you look at it that way. You have 2 really, really good tight ends, and then you have a second-round pick in the future in next year's draft. So those are like the positives, but still at the same time, I'd rather keep the gang that we have with Terry, Debo, Noah Brown, who's iffy with health, and then you have Jalen Lane, who looks really, really promising and really, really good at receiver. So, but all right, I'll wrap it up there, guys. You guys let me know what you guys think. As always, Hell's Commanders, peace.